All right, camp continues, and we got to talk about some roster moves. We got to say welcome to a new Seahawk. We got to say adios and happy trails to someone that didn't want to sign with us. And I want to rant at the end about just how it's like we knew this was coming from Brian Flurry, but nonetheless, we are excited to finally see it happening. What's going on, everybody? Christian Pedersen back with another episode of Seahawks Digest, the show that is going to do its best to not look over at the OBS board, because I know when I look this way, I need to talk louder. I'm trying to redo the setup here for YouTube show. We're getting you content every single day. If you want to follow along, like, subscribe, comment, share. Those are all the buttons that I am told by my bosses. And yes, I have bosses that monitor me on this. That's what I'm told to tell you to push. The first is a move, a change of roster decisions that I said I was going to get to. Seahawks decided to sign Joseph Vaughn, designating or getting rid of Jamarcus Weston. I almost said designating for assignment. Still got some with the trade deadline for baseball. I got that on the brain. My apologies. But yeah, Joseph Vaughn is in. Jamarcus Weston, the listed reason was injury. He was not healing. He was not performing. And Vaughn is he's a depth piece. He's a minimum. There's going to be some of this where we sign big-time guys, as with the next person that I want to talk about. There's going to be some of this where we sign guys who largely are, I don't want to say disposable bodies because that's super-duper rude and reductionist of me, but guys that, I guess, let me ask you this. Are any of you going to go out or let me know if you're the one person that's going to go buy a Joseph Vaughn jersey? But nonetheless, it's these signings that I think continue to prove John Schneider et al. I use Schneider as the term for everybody in that front office really knows what they're doing. And the filling of little, I always make so apologies if I'm doing this on repeats for those of you that actually continuously watch this, but it's all the little pieces just as much as it is the top tier pieces that make institutional greatness as we have achieved nonetheless here. With the Seattle Seahawks. Someone who is not coming back. The next story I wanted to get to was Jadeveon Clowney. There had been talks about Seattle expressing some interest in signing him, that he was at home working out, and he ultimately chose to go back to the Texans. Kick rocks, dude. Look, hey, am I bummed that we didn't get him back because he was good at his job despite being a little bit older and it would have been a nice thing? Yeah, great. The Texans did not end up paying him the minimum, and I would be curious to see how that investment goes of really what the ROI is for how he's, tail end of his career versus we needed him as a situational return, as a situational sort of piece. They need him as a full-time piece. Good on you, man. If maybe we can still pick him up by the end of the year, but I think that's more ship sailed, and it's a bummer, but it's whatever at the same time. What I wanted to close out with, or what I am geared up to just really rant about we knew that this was going to happen, but it's good to finally see it happen, is the Flurrination. The Flurrinator, Brian Flurry, our new offensive coordinator, is turning this thing into a tight end juggernaut. He comes from San Francisco, and so there certainly has been a lot of the generic argument of, oh, look what George Kittle was doing, and that's going to mean that there's going to be a lot of the Seahawks doing it now, and that's how football works, is that everybody's the next somebody. And so Elijah Arroyo's already being pegged as he's going to explode into this fantastic tight end because Flurry just whispers in tight ends' ears sweet nothings, and they become the greatest players ever. On the viability of that argument, but it is something where if we are going through camp and we're already seeing tweets come out like this with tight ends and fullbacks all producing, because this one is just about the group, to have 6 20-plus yard receptions amongst the squad, even in a controlled environment, or maybe even more so in a controlled environment where you know what's coming, you're still going to try and get it to them. But to actually to have completed it, to have committed to spending the limited amount of time that these guys have on a field to practice this kind of stuff, to commit to doing that and being about that vibe and about that life, to me, is really fun to see. It's also the trickle down. I use that term a lot. They talk about big receptions from Torrey Horton, Rashid Shaheed, and Elijah Arroyo. So Arroyo obviously is going to be the marquee one of the tight ends and is already getting the love. But to see a situation where you just end up lining up so many guys that you have to pay at least a modicum of attention to, someone's going to be open or not optimally covered. And so if Elijah Arroyo has a couple of big games and a couple of lousy games and here and there and bing, 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 like if there's some teams really dedicated to try and covering him, great. It then means Sam Darnold can go find Sheed. If people want to, do all their safeties and corners and commit help over the top to snuffing out JSN, Sheed, Torrey Horton, all those guys, guess who's going to be open up the seam? Elijah Arroyo and company. So the tight end feels like one to me where you can really commit this fun amount of engagement, and it's a win-win because, other than maybe Gronk, who has been singularly responsible for if you shut that tight end down. No, that's a nice extra piece because they're going to stay in on some of this and they're going to block. They're going to stay, talking about the personnel. There's let me bring this one full size. Apologies to those of you watching this on a phone for some of the text being small, but breaking down the different percentage of personnel looks that the Seahawks rank in, and the percentage of times using 12, 22, 13 personnel, all the different things to be like, hey, we're using 2 tight ends, we're bringing in extra blockers. That might be the furthest into the weeds of the stats that I ever want to get. I'm not trying to barrage you with look at the percentage of things used, but to know that we have the quality at the position and the capability of the rest of the offense to open up, that you can't just shut down that one position and then nobody else can pick up the slack, and that you have a coach who isn't just aware that the tight end exists, but is somebody who views it as a weapon to be wielded in this sort of less thought of way. Like I said, we spent the whole offseason being we thought what this was going to look like was going to be a certain kind of thing, but then it's hey, we wind up getting to, I'll call this tweet back, if we wind up getting to this, and this is where, like I said, we knew what it was going to look like this, but to actually see this in action, where tight ends and fullbacks are getting absolutely fed the ball in a really fun way, feels like, to me, it feels like Flurry has said, I'm not going to mess up this opportunity, or at least I'm going to do it my way. And if this doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but I'm not going to be we're going to hold on to some Kubiak offense and maybe sprinkle in a little bit of me on the fringes. He's saying, look, great to have all you guys here. Here's my game plan. Let's start kicking indoors. And that's the vibe I get, and I dig that confidence from Flurry. All right, that's what I've got for you, a trio of stories, trying to bring you daily content, and that means every single day you'll get that little push notification if you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Until next time, keep the faith. Everybody's going to be a great season. Talk to you soon.